Ladies and gents, I'm Lucid Reacts, and this is the Vela incident, greatest nuclear mystery ever by the channel RealLifeLore. Yeah, I've never heard of this. Greatest nuclear mystery ever? It's gonna be a fun video. This is by the channel RealLifeLore. I retweeted quite a few videos from RealLifeLore. If you haven't seen them, check out the cards. There's a playlist creator for it. Lots of time I upload video, more than 3 video in 24 hours. So YouTube doesn't send notification. So you might have missed some of them. Check out the, playlist in the cards. Check out the playlist 2 like CGB Grey, Cuz Gazette in a Nutshell, Only Sarcastic Production, Tier Zoo. And yeah, let's do this one.
This video is made possible by CuriosityStream. Watch any of their more than 2,000 documentaries for free by visiting curiositystream.com/reallifelore. In the very early morning hours of the 22nd of September 1979, something weird happened in the waters of the South Indian Ocean that has puzzled experts ever since. An American satellite orbiting above, known as Vela Hotel 6911, detected a bright double flash of light below that seemed to be indicative of a nuclear explosion. Whenever a nuclear bomb is detonated, there is an initial extremely intense but brief burst of light, followed by a longer and less intense light afterwards. This is a key signature for differentiating a nuclear explosion from any other kind of man-made or natural phenomenon. But the weird part was, the explosion seemed to be located in one of the most remote parts of the planet, somewhere around here in the Indian Ocean between Africa and Antarctica, and between the Crozet Islands owned by France and the Prince Edward Islands owned by South Africa. Further, a typhoon was active around that area at the time, which seemed to suggest that whoever did detonate a nuclear bomb there was trying to keep it a secret from the rest of the world. Almost immediately.
Hold up there. Did they detonate on the water, or was there an island there? Because I don't think anybody have, exploded a nuclear bomb on the water. I think it would cause somewhat of a tsunami, wouldn't it? I mean, you have to detonate on the island. I don't know.
Upon detection by the Vela satellite, the United States and NATO began investigating who may have conducted the secret and mysterious test. The U.S. Air Force flew no less than 25 sorties over the area over the next few weeks to collect atmospheric samples. The UN Security Council concluded that the event was very likely of nuclear origin, while meanwhile in the United States, the Carter administration convened a panel of scientists and experts to determine what the event actually was, and if it was nuclear, who was to blame for it. However, after going through the data, this panel curiously came to the conclusion that the Vela incident, as it was getting to be known, was most likely caused by a natural event. The report has been declassified since, so you can check it out for yourself.
So maybe US is involved. It was one of the US explosion. What I'm thinking is maybe they were transporting some nukes and accidentally dropped them. I mean, that did happen lots of time in the past. Fortunately, there was no explosion. I mean, US dropped nukes on their own one of the states when they were transporting it, accidentally fell down. And there's a plaque there, something saying like the greatest blunder happened here or something like that. In short, basically everyone was basically screwed at that day, but fortunately it didn't go off. So, and there is still some of the, some nuclear material is still there on the ground, something like that, I don't know. So it could be that, who knows?
But they theorized that perhaps a micrometeoroid had struck the Vela satellite and caused it to only appear to detect a double flash in the Indian Ocean
and cause no damage?
Largely, this was because the panel failed to discover any corroborating evidence for a nuclear detonation. They pointed out that the ratio of intensities between the first and the second flashes of the supposed explosion didn't match up with the ratio of actual nuclear explosions that had been measured accurately. The US sorties over the area failed to produce any evidence of nuclear fallout, and a US-led team studying wind patterns failed to detect any levels of radiation down on the surface. Thus, the Carter administration ruled that while they couldn't entirely prove that it wasn't a nuclear explosion, they considered it much more likely that a natural phenomenon was to blame. And soon around that time, the UN Security Council adjusted their position to inconclusive on whether or not a secret nuclear test had actually been conducted.
I mean, that feels about right. Like there is no footprint left of any nuclear explosion, so it must have been something else. I mean, you can't disprove that it was a nuke or not, but you can prove. I mean, lots of people say you cannot prove negative, but when it comes to science, there are ways to prove negative at certain extent. Like there's an analogy, like if you see a cave, is there a bear inside? I mean, you're not gonna go inside and check it out. Obviously, the bear would kill you. So how are you gonna know if the bear is inside? Because bear goes through hibernation. So, you basically put, white powder outside of the cave and do lots of this trap type of thing and wait for months, even a year. If there is no footprint or nothing coming out, you just proved that there is no bear inside. Obviously, you cannot say for 100% certainty that there is no bear inside or what. There could be another entrance of the cave, maybe, but there's a high chance there is no bear there. So that is proving somewhat of a negative. I mean, basically, strength of the evidence is not 100%, but it's still good enough. So it's like that. Yes, you cannot prove that, this one nuclear explosions or not. But, you did see, and there is no nuclear radiation, nothing like that. The flashes doesn't match up. So it makes sense. It could have been something natural.
There was, of course, significant evidence to suggest, though, the nuclear test actually did take place.
How?
The Vela satellite system together had successfully detected 41 previous atmospheric nuclear tests across the world, after all. And further, the Arecibo Observatory in Puerto Rico was able to detect an ionospheric anomaly traveling from the epicenter of the supposed detonation site. While an American study failed to come up with any radioactive fallout that would have been produced by such an explosion, an Australian study did. Scientists at the Los Alamos Observatory also voiced their belief that the sensors aboard the Vela satellite that detected the anomaly were not malfunctioning, while several other scientists have come forward claiming that the Carter administration panel's finding of a natural occurrence was politically motivated.
Wait a minute, they just lied? That American agency just lied that there is no radiation there because the Australians definitely found it. Huh.
There are journalists who claim that every successive US administration since then has deliberately covered up the truth of what the Vela incident actually was, while several modern studies conducted as recently as 2016 and 2018 attribute the cause to definitely being a nuclear bomb detonation. So if it's true, why hasn't the United States or anybody else just come out and said definitively what the Vela incident?
Yeah, I mean, it's been long enough. US has known to hide things, sure, but eventually after decades, they do release the documents that says, oh, well, look at that. We were hiding that. I mean, I think it's long enough. Why are they not coming out with this?
Was, and who was actually responsible for secretly detonating a nuclear bomb back in 1979?
Make it more creepy, why not?
Because, well, the answer would be awkward. Based on the geography of where the test took place, most researchers seem to believe that it was a nuclear test conducted by apartheid-era South Africa, or Israel, or both of their governments cooperating together. Israel is widely believed to have a nuclear weapons program that began in the late 1940s, but it's extremely murky territory. Israel has, after all, never confirmed nor denied the existence of their nuclear weapons, and it's never been known when, where, or even
Israel started in the late 1940s? Damn, that's very early. I mean, if they do have a hidden nuclear program, they would have lots of nuke by now. I mean, if they do have a hidden program, because they would have started from in the end of 1940s. Damn, that's very early.
If Israel has actually tested any of their potential nukes. Cooperating with South Africa and testing a nuclear bomb in a faraway corner of the world would make sense for such a secretive program. But what would have been in it for South Africa? Well, at the time, South Africa was embroiled in a war against Angola and communist Cuba, who were receiving supplies from the Soviet Union. Due to South Africa's apartheid racial discrimination policies, their government was shunned by much of the rest of the world, and a UN arms embargo had recently been passed against them. It was hard for the apartheid regime to find friends in the world, but they found friends in the Israelis, who were speculated to have cooperated together on their nuclear weapons research. Israel wanted nukes as a deterrent against their Arab neighbors, while South Africa wanted them as a deterrent against communists in Angola and Cuba. South Africa did, in fact, develop 6 functioning atomic bombs. But after the fall of apartheid, they made that fact publicly disclosed and dismantled all of them. However, the modern South African nation has still never admitted to any nuclear test conducted on the 22nd of September 1979, and neither, for that matter, has Israel.
Is that the South African guy who basically fumbles, and what was that thing just a year or two, I think 2-3 years ago, where he forgot the lines or something? He was just basically, couldn't read properly. People were basically, he was under heat a lot because he had mansions and things, he had Ferraris and things. Huh.
The U.S. may have known about this test for decades, but has avoided publicly sharing this information because it would politically complicate relations with both South Africa and/or Israel, both ostensibly allies of the United States. Building evidence over the years has been particularly damning, though. A former South African naval commander convicted of spying for the Soviets has claimed that the Vela incident was indeed a top-secret joint South African and Israeli nuclear test, conducted at a time and a place where they believed that they wouldn't get caught.
What I don't understand is why would it be an issue to share that out, to the public? At the time, people were testing nuclear bombs. Nuclear bombs was a thing, and when it comes to basically being a nuclear police, US is the police. Basically US is the one who get pissed off if somebody breaks any kind of a treaty or anything like that. And US is part of this, so why can't US, South Africa, Israel just band together and just say, yeah, that was us, that was us, we tested that? I mean, why not? Or who's gonna come out screaming here?
By anybody. So maybe they did get caught, or maybe it was actually just something weird and natural that happened instead. A lot of questions still remain unsolved about the Vela incident, and we may never learn the truth.
I mean, it could be an asteroid if it went, not micro asteroid or whatever he was saying, hitting the satellite. That would have, the speed of the asteroid would be, basically at the level of speed they would explode some part of the satellite and satellite wouldn't function. You can't just hit side of the satellite. So I don't think it hit the satellite, but it went past the satellite and exploded, near the satellite somewhere. So it created some kind of flash. That could happen.
Behind what actually happened that day, but in a way, that's kind of what makes the Vela incident and other mysteries so interesting. The fact that you don't know all of the answers and the possibility that one day you might. So if you're like me and you love learning everything you can about strange, unsolved mysteries and
people, go to curiositystream.com/RealLifeLore and support that channel, or just go to the description. There's the original video link there. Click that and go from there, I guess. So Vela incident. I never heard of this, but this is something. I mean, it doesn't make sense to me. I mean, if US is involved, I mean, they could just come out and say, oh, look at that was us. And people aren't going, oh, how despicable, you were testing nuclear missiles. I mean, lots of people are doing it. So what if they come out now? What's the issue that's going to cause? I mean, US is the ally right now. Usually US is the one who gets angry. In here, US knows it. So what's the issue? So alright people, if you like my reaction, don't forget to like and subscribe. Check out the reaction. There's a link in the description. Check out the cast of the playlist. Check out the end cards, and I'll see you next time.